Leo, let me be honest with you right away. Tomorrow, Sunday, November 23rd, something is coming that will hit your life like a bomb. A message or event you never expected is about to land, and once it does, things won't go back to the way they were. Not because they're breaking, but because you're finally waking up to what was meant for you all along. You didn't land here by accident. The fact that you're watching this right now, at this exact moment, means something powerful is aligning behind the scenes. Whether it's been a string of strange dreams, subtle signs, or just a quiet knowing inside of you, it's all been leading here. This is the moment where something shifts. And maybe, just maybe, your soul already knows it. If you felt lately like something is stirring but you can't quite name it, if your chest feels tight at night or you've been catching your breath for no clear reason, pay attention. These aren't coincidences. They're signals. Your energy is preparing for a reset, and tomorrow might be the moment it clicks into place. Now, I'm not here to tell you that everything is going to be easy. If you're anything like most Leos I know, you've probably been holding it together for a long time. Carrying more than you should. Smiling when you wanted to scream. Proving your strength when deep down, you just needed someone to say, "You can stop now. You've already done enough." This message is exactly that. You've already done enough. Now it's time to allow something greater to come through. But here's the thing, what's coming won't knock gently. It's going to shake things. A call you didn't expect, a conversation you've been avoiding, or a door that seemed closed suddenly swinging wide open. Don't be surprised when it happens. Just be ready to meet it with your whole self. Before we dive into the details, I want you to do something simple but powerful. Scroll down to the comments and write, "I am ready to receive the unexpected gift meant for me on November 23rd. By doing this, you're not just typing words. You're setting an energetic intention, one that tells the universe and yourself that you're open. That you're not running anymore. That whatever tomorrow brings, you will meet it with presence, not fear. And while we're here, I want to take a quiet moment to say thank you. For showing up. For listening. For allowing yourself to receive a message that might just change everything. Every comment you leave, every like, every subscribe you share, it all helps build the community we're creating here. A place where spiritual truth meets real-life courage. This isn't just another video. This is a space where faith meets practice. Where astrology becomes something you feel, not just something you watch. Where tarot opens the door, but you walk through it. And I promise you, Leo, you'll want to stay with me until the very end of this message, because what the universe is revealing now is too important to miss. Now let me ask you, from one soul to another, what drew you here today? What if this is the moment you've been waiting for, disguised as a sign that feels just strange enough to be real? Let's find out together. Keep watching. Let's slow down for a moment and really feel what's happening here. You've heard the words. Tomorrow, November 23rd, something is coming. But this isn't just another day on the calendar, and what's about to arrive isn't just some random occurrence. This is what I'd call a divine interruption, an urgent nudge from the universe, not gently tapping at your door, but knocking it wide open. When energy builds for too long in one direction, when we've ignored our intuition, delayed the inevitable, or avoided our truth, life will often send something undeniable to redirect us. That's what the tower represents. And no, it's not a punishment. It's a realignment. Imagine standing in a room that's grown too small for who you've become. You've rearranged the furniture, repainted the walls, even tried to convince yourself it's enough. But deep down, you know you've outgrown it. And when the foundation finally cracks, not from failure, but from growth, it's startling, but it's also sacred. That crack is your liberation. That sudden change, however uncomfortable, is what makes space for the version of you that's been waiting patiently to rise. Now, I know that sounds poetic. But I'm not speaking in riddles. I'm speaking from experience. And if you're honest with yourself, you probably feel it too. Something has been building inside you for a while now. Maybe you've sensed it in your chest, like a quiet pressure. Maybe in your dreams, where familiar people or places suddenly feel distant. Maybe in your own silence, where the old explanations no longer comfort you. That's how the universe speaks when it's done waiting. It sends a tower moment not to break you, but to wake you. Still, the tower doesn't stand alone. Alongside it in this reading is the star, and that matters. Because the star is the light that comes after. It's hope. It's clarity. It's the kind of peace that doesn't depend on circumstances, but grows from inside out. The kind of calm you feel after a storm, when you realize you're still standing and stronger for it. When the tower appears, yes, something is falling. But when the star follows, it means you're finally aligned with your true direction. And that is nothing short of sacred. And then comes the 9 of Pentacles. This is the part no one tells you about the spiritual path, that when you clear what's false, abundance flows. Not always right away, not always in ways you expect, but inevitably. The 9 of Pentacles speaks of earned stability. Of building something real, not rushed. It's about knowing your worth, claiming your space, and not settling for less just to be accepted. This isn't about surface-level success. It's about deep-rooted self-respect. But let me ground this in something even more practical. If tomorrow brings a message through a phone call, a text, an unexpected encounter, don't overthink it. Feel it. Pay attention to how your body responds, not just your mind. If your breath deepens, if your chest opens, even if it scares you a little, that's your soul saying yes. That's your doorway. If you hesitate too long, someone else might step through it. So don't wait for perfect clarity. Wait for truth. And truth always comes with peace, not pressure. I want to ask you something, and I mean this sincerely. Have you been noticing any strange signs lately? Repeating numbers, unexplainable delays, conversations that seem oddly timed? Those are not distractions. They're guidance. They're breadcrumbs from the universe, and if you're seeing them, it's because you're being invited into a new season of your life. So take a moment and share in the comments, what signs have been showing up for you? Let this space be a container where we hold each other's awakenings with care and curiosity. Because here's what I've learned, life doesn't always speak loud. But when it does, like it will tomorrow, it's time to listen. Leo, if you're being completely honest with yourself, can you still recognize the version of you from a year ago? Even 6 months ago? You've changed, haven't you? But not in the ways the outside world often presents. No big performance, no dramatic makeover. Your transformation has been quieter, more internal. And yet, it's the kind that shifts the entire foundation of a person's life. There was a time when you kept quiet, not because you didn't know what to say, but because love made you soft, even when it hurt. You held on, not out of weakness, but out of hope. You wore the strong face, smiled at the right times, carried responsibilities that weren't always yours, and told yourself you could handle it. And maybe you could. But it came at a cost. Little by little, your heart started to wear thin at the edges. Not enough to break you, but enough to make you question how much longer you could keep going like that. The truth is, Leo, you've outgrown who you used to be. And whether or not you've said it out loud, part of you already knows, you can't be that version of yourself anymore. You're not the Leo who chases validation, who accepts love that comes with conditions, or who silences their own needs to avoid being left behind. That version of you was built on survival. The version you're stepping into now is built on truth. So here's where it gets interesting. The past has a funny way of sensing when we've moved on. That's why someone from your past may suddenly reappear, drawn not to who you are now, but to the version of you they thought they could always access. There might be apologies. There might be "I've changed" speeches. But your heart will know the difference this time. Because when you've tasted peace, chaos just doesn't feel like home anymore. And then, on the other side of the horizon, something new approaches. A different kind of connection. One that doesn't push or pull. It doesn't test your worth or need you to prove anything. This energy feels different. It's clean, unforced, steady. It doesn't arrive with fireworks or confusion. It arrives like morning light, quiet, but undeniable. And here's the truth about real love. It doesn't make you anxious. It makes you breathe easier. Sometimes we talk about letting go like it's this dramatic event, a big final decision. But in reality, it often looks like choosing not to reply to the same kind of message, saying no to the same kind of chaos, or simply recognizing that you no longer feel the need to fix what broke you. That's growth. That's healing. That's self-respect rooted in experience, not theory. And I want to invite you to take a breath and check in with yourself. Does the version of you right now feel lighter than before? Are you slowly peeling away from people, habits, or spaces that used to define you? That's not rejection. That's realignment. And it's okay if it's messy. It's okay if it's not clear yet. What matters is that you've stopped abandoning yourself just to keep something familiar. If this is resonating with you, share it. Say it out loud. Write it in the comments. Sometimes saying, "I've changed and I'm not going back," is the most powerful declaration you can make. And I'd love to hear from you. What's one old version of yourself that you're proud to have outgrown? Your voice, your truth, it matters here. Because as you claim this new chapter, you make space for what's meant to find you. And that's how the real shift begins. Sometimes life has a strange way of circling back. The job you thought had passed you by, the idea you shelved years ago because the timing wasn't right, or even the person who once looked through you without really seeing your worth. These things have a way of reappearing when your energy has shifted and your inner worth is no longer up for negotiation. That's the energy the Nine of Pentacles brings to the table, and if you've drawn this card, if this message is resonating, it's not random. It's a reflection of the quiet inner work you've been doing behind the scenes. Financial recovery doesn't always come in the form of a lottery ticket or a sudden windfall. More often, it shows up as alignment, when what you offer and what you receive begin to match. That alignment usually doesn't happen by accident. It comes after you've learned to say no to what used to drain you, after you've chosen to stop performing in roles that made you feel small, and after you've recognized that chasing opportunities won't get you further than standing firmly in your value. Astrologically, this upcoming period, especially with the Sun in hard aspect to Uranus around the 23rd of November, can shake the foundations of how you relate to your resources and how you define security. It might feel disruptive. Unexpected shifts in career direction, a surprise change in income, or a confrontation around your boundaries with work or reputation may arise. But these events are not setbacks. They're invitations to redefine what success actually looks like to you now. Not the version you inherited, or the one society expects, but the one your soul is finally ready to live out. Think of this as a reset. But not the kind where you wipe everything clean. It's more like a moment when you replant the same seed in richer soil, after learning what the last harvest taught you. The Nine of Pentacles isn't just about money, it's about self-sufficiency, about standing tall in your integrity, about creating a life that isn't built on striving, but on steady, aligned choices that honor who you really are. Now is not the time to shrink. Now is not the time to accept less just to keep the peace or prove that you're easy to work with. There will be people, maybe well-meaning, maybe not, who try to convince you to lower your standards, just this once. Don't. What you accept now sets the tone for what continues. If someone wants your magic, they need to be willing to meet your terms, and if they can't, that's not your loss. There's a frequency to abundance. And you've been tuning into it each time you chose yourself when it would have been easier to compromise. The law of attraction responds not to what we want, but to what we believe we deserve. If you've been doing the work to raise that belief even silently, even on the hard days, then know this: something is ready to shift. So here's my invitation. Claim it. Say it aloud, or better yet, write it in the comments below as a sacred agreement with your own growth. I am worthy of recognition, financial stability, and opportunities that match my true value. This isn't just a sentence. It's a declaration. And it's also a doorway. Because what's coming to meet you will reflect the version of you who finally stopped asking for permission. You've earned more than just success, you've earned the right to stop explaining yourself. Now let the rest of the world catch up. Sometimes healing doesn't come with fanfare. It doesn't announce itself through dramatic events or big breakthroughs. It sneaks in through a random dream, a song you haven't heard in years that suddenly makes your throat tighten, or waking up in the middle of the night for no obvious reason with a heaviness in your chest that you can't explain. These are the moments many people dismiss. But if you're sensitive to energy, if you've been walking this path of inner transformation, then you know these subtle moments carry more weight than they seem. What you're experiencing may not be emotional breakdowns or random glitches in your sleep cycle. It may actually be your soul making space. When we're on the verge of a shift, especially a soul-level shift, our subconscious starts doing its work long before the conscious mind catches up. The energy around you gets lighter, but more intense. The silence becomes louder. And it's not that anything is wrong. It's that something deep within you is finally trying to speak, and for once, you're ready to listen. This part of your journey is not about chasing answers. It's about learning how to listen. Listening to your breath. To the beat of your own heart. To the truth that doesn't need words. The truth that whispers, not shouts. You may be feeling emotionally tender, more affected by things that didn't used to bother you. That's not regression, it's a sign your walls are softening. You're no longer pushing everything down just to get through the day. You're beginning to let yourself feel, and that's what healing really looks like. Energetically, this period may feel strange because you're not actively doing anything, and yet so much is shifting. This is a space of spiritual detox. The past is shedding itself, not through confrontation but through release. You're being asked to let go, not to fix, not to understand, but simply to stop carrying what was never meant to be yours forever. This is where the real work begins. Not in fighting your way forward, but in surrendering with intention. That's why small rituals can be so powerful right now. Try placing your hand on your heart before you fall asleep and saying, "I release what no longer belongs to me. I trust the rhythm of my life." Say it gently. Say it like a lullaby. And when you wake up, speak a possibility into your morning. Today is a day where a quiet miracle could find me. None of these words are magic spells. They are acts of participation. Tiny but intentional openings through which bigger shifts can enter. The universe often doesn't need grand gestures. It needs your permission. So ask yourself, have you been seeing strange patterns lately? Dreams that feel more vivid? Emotions that rise up without clear reason? That's not randomness. That's the inner call. And no one else can hear it for you. But you can share it. You can say, "Something is moving inside me, and I'm choosing not to ignore it." And if you feel called, write in the comments below, "I allow myself to heal without needing to explain it." Because healing doesn't have to make sense to anyone else. It only has to feel right to you. Let that be enough. Let that be sacred. Let that be the quiet revolution your soul has been waiting for. There comes a moment on every path where you realize the ground beneath you is shifting, not because it's crumbling, but because you've outgrown the space you once called safe. That's what the tower really is. It's not destruction for the sake of chaos. It's transformation born from truth. The walls that once protected you are now too tight. The story you once told about yourself no longer holds your full capacity. And when life steps in to crack those old forms open, it's not to punish you, it's to prepare you. What separates a life-shattering collapse from a life-changing breakthrough isn't the event itself, it's your response to it. It's what you choose to believe about what's happening. You can see it as loss, or you can see it as a doorway. And here's the thing most people miss: the door isn't locked. It never was. But it doesn't open with force. It opens with softness. It opens with trust. It opens when you finally stop letting fear be the one holding the key. When you wake up on November 23rd, or when that message arrives unexpectedly, when a conversation unfolds in a way you didn't plan, when your heart stirs at something small but undeniable, pause. Don't react. Breathe. 3 deep breaths. 1 for everything you've carried. 1 for everything you've released. And 1 for everything that's coming next. Then ask your heart, not your mind, what feels true for me right now? That's your answer. That's your compass. And it doesn't have to make sense to anyone but you. There will be people who don't understand this new version of you. People who were comfortable with the old you, the one who was more agreeable, more accommodating, more silent. They may resist your change, not because you've done something wrong, but because your growth highlights their stagnation. But you are not responsible for their discomfort. You are responsible for your alignment. You don't owe anyone the version of you they preferred over your truth. This isn't the kind of chapter where you explain yourself. This is the one where you choose yourself fully, clearly, without apology. You're not turning your back on anyone. You're simply facing forward. And that's what courage looks like on a soul level. It's not loud. It's not theatrical. It's steady, grounded, and often quiet. But it moves mountains. Think of it like this: a door is opening now. Not to somewhere new, but to a more honest version of where you already are. It's a shift in presence. A shift in choice. And it's only accessible when your heart is open enough to recognize it. So if you feel fear coming up, if you feel resistance rising, let that be a sign not that something's wrong, but that something real is near. You don't need to have all the answers today. You only need to be willing to stop going back to what made you small. Say it to yourself. Write it if it helps. And if you feel called to declare it out loud, add it in the comments right now. I allow the universe to lead me toward truth, and I will not return to the spaces that dimmed my light. That's not just a sentence. That's a choice. That's you saying yes to life, not the one built on expectations, but the one built on resonance. This is how a new chapter begins, not by force, but by permission. So give yourself that. No matter how uncertain it feels. The future doesn't need you to be fearless. It only needs you to be faithful to the truth in your chest. And on days like tomorrow, when the signs arrive disguised as ordinary moments, remember, destiny doesn't always make a sound when it walks through the door. But if your heart is open, you'll know exactly when it arrives. There's something powerful about realizing that change doesn't wait for us to feel ready. It arrives when we're finally brave enough to say yes, even with our hands shaking. And maybe that's what tomorrow, Sunday the 23rd, really is. Not just a date on a calendar. Not just another day passing by. But a crack in the pattern. A divine interruption. A message that seems small on the surface, but if you're quiet enough, still enough, present enough, it could change the course of everything. That message might not look like a miracle when it first arrives. It might look like a pause. Like an uncomfortable truth. Like someone leaving or someone returning. It might look like a choice you've avoided for too long, suddenly refusing to be postponed any longer. But whatever it is, it's meant for you, and it's asking for your presence, not your perfection. So I'll say this as clearly as I can: you have the right to say no to fear. You have the right to say no to the roles you played just to survive. You have the right to walk out into the world not as someone trying to be enough, but as someone who already is. You don't have to explain why you've changed. You don't have to prove that you've outgrown what once defined you. The clarity you've earned is your light now. Let it lead. And maybe this is the question you're meant to carry with you as you step into what's next. Will you allow the miracle to find you even if it doesn't look like what you imagined? Because sometimes blessings come disguised as disruptions. Sometimes, the breakthrough wears the face of a goodbye. Sometimes, destiny whispers in the language of detours. Can you trust it, anyway? If you've come this far with me, let's do something small but meaningful together. Before you go to sleep tonight, write down your dreams, no matter how strange, no matter how scattered. Dreams are messengers, too. Then write down 3 things you're ready to release. You don't have to explain them. Just acknowledge them. Let them go in a way that feels sacred. Burn the paper, bury it, fold it into your journal. And if you feel called, wear something tomorrow in your power colors: bold gold, deep orange, or fierce red. Not to impress anyone, but to remind yourself that you are not hiding anymore. Let this be the moment you chose to be awake in your own life. Let this be the chapter where the plot twist is you, finally saying, "I'm done shrinking for comfort. I'm ready for truth, even if it shakes me first." And if this message stirred something inside you, drop it in the comments below. Say it loud. Say it for you. I'm ready to receive the unexpected miracle, even if it asks me to let go of what I thought I needed. Your words carry energy. They become part of the sacred space we're building together here. Thank you, deeply, for sharing your time, your heart, and your intention with me. Every like, every comment, every share, every subscription on this channel, Eternal Mindfulness, means more than numbers. It's a collective vibration, a ripple we're sending out to the world. You're not alone. You are seen. You are guided. And I promise you, the universe never misses its moment. Stay with me until the very last second, because what's coming next is nothing short of spectacular. Are you ready?